Good evening from yammybtv. Wishing you all well today. Sending loads of love as usual. Hoping your Sunday is going the best it possibly can. Now tonight I've come up with a bit of a tearjerker. Some of it reality, some of it very, very factual as well. And I'd like to share with you some moments when I have cried. And not only cried where it hurt so much, where you're on your hands and knees, whether fact or fiction, it hurts you so much that, real or not real, it still has the same effect on you. So the film I'm going to talk about first before I get into other stuff is a film called Champ. Now, this little boy is growing up with no mum. His mum left him in the care of his dad when he was about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. She moved on to pastures new. She met a rich man, apparently. Her name, great actress. She was in Bonnie and Clyde as well. I think her name was Faye Dunaway, right? So she played the part of the mother that in the end, had guilt, I suppose, over it all. Anyway, the dad's left to bring up the son all by himself. So he tells him stories about when he was a fighter. So times get hard and there's not much food on the table. So there's not much ways of making money. So his son is begging his dad, can't you come out one more time, Dad, and be a champion again for me? And, not for the money sake of things, just because he wanted his dad to be a champion again, because he liked listening to all the stories. We know this is the work of fiction. This is important to say, right? But it still hurt me nevertheless. So his dad listens to him. He goes to his old promoter. He said, listen, I want to have one more go. I want to come out of retirement and I want to have a fight. But if I remember rightly, some of you quote me if I'm wrong, his promoter or his trainer said, listen, I don't think it's a good idea. So basically he didn't listen. He went on these early morning runs. You go on the early morning runs when you're training for a fight. He was up at the crack of dawn and you had the lovely boy, I forgot his name as well. He was running behind his dad going, go on, Dad, go on, champ. Come on, champ, you can do it. Every single day. Real heartbreaking story from a little boy worship and idolize the ground his dad walked on, right? So it got round to the fight night. Now, all he wanted to do was have this fight, get some money to provide for his son and him. That's all it was, as far as I remember. If any of you know different, it'd be nice of you to remind me. But it's something that lives with me forever and ever. When asked my favourite tearjerker, this is one of them. So the build-up comes. It's fight night. He's in the ring. His son's watching from ringside. He's feeling every blow, and every time his dad gets hit, sometimes it looks like he's getting really hurt. It looks like as well that his dad is suffering during the fight as well. It looks like he wants to throw the towel in a long time, but because his son's watching, sadly, he wants to stay in there, hang in there, so that he doesn't want his son to think that he bottled it or he didn't end up on his feet, so to speak. But his son, in his mind, believed like a normal boy would, that his dad would be victorious and that his dad would be a champion again. It's the things, the stuff that kids dream about, isn't it? Come on, let's have it right. So every morning he's following him and he's chanting, he's doing all his stuff. Fight night came right now. So the geezers he's fighting is a seasoned pro. He's had many fights, nothing special, I don't think. But a good warm-up for him, if you like, if you're in that game. But not somebody that's been out of retirement for 10 years or 15 years. It's hardly a fight that you can be expecting to win. But he took it anyway. And we know fighters have big, big hearts. Well, the majority have anyway. So they get in the ring. The son's at ringside. He's feeling every single blow. And I think his mum was at ringside as well with the new boyfriend, right? So the blows are coming in. He's fighting back sometimes. The boys getting excited like they do. He's feeling every blow, like I said already. So the fight comes towards the end, right? It looks to me like the dad, John Voight, his name was, right? Famous actor as well. I think he's dad to Liza Minnelli. I'm not sure, but it's someone famous anyway. But it looked like he was ready to throw the towel in at any time during the fight, because it looked like he was on borrowed time, and that basically he was standing on his feet only because his son was there and he didn't want to let him down. That's what it looked like to me. I don't know what it looked like to many of you. Some of you youngsters who ain't watched it, you watch it tonight. It's called Champ. John Voight's in it and Faye Dunaway, right? So towards the end of the fight, I think it gets towards the end, or it's on points, but he is getting a bit of a hiding. But I think, and I remember, that he lasted the whole fight, but he loses the fight. Or does he? I can't even remember. I got a feeling that he might have even pulled it off. I'm not sure. Some of you quote me on it, because it's something that I remember dearly, and it broke my heart, the ending. Really, really sad, right? So the fight's finished. They're walking back to the dressing room. They're calling for the doctor, because his carer, his trainer and promoter, are a bit worried about his health. He said he's feeling a bit funny, and he's lying down on the table. And then after a few seconds, he stops talking. His son is like trying to wake his dad up, like trying to say, you know, Dad, where are you? Wake up, wake up. No response. The doctor's come and explained in front of the boy that his dad's not alive. And the crying from the boy, I will never, the acting was of the highest degree. When you're little and you watch these things, you really, really believe it. But I remember there was a time in Swellside where I watched the film again, and the same effect happened to me. That happened to me when I was a kid. When I rewatched it, I was still crying. I remember grown men being in the room watching the video and trying to put their heads down with tears coming down their eyes like that. And nothing changed with me either. But I remember his mother coming in to talk to him at the end, and he didn't seem interested. All he was doing, he was holding onto his dad's legs. They were trying to take him away. It was such an emotional scene that it lives with me forever and ever and ever. So there it is. Those are the not really factual, but fictional, but still left that effect on me. That it had that real life element to it. You know, something that wouldn't be impossible to happen with a son trying to gas up his dad to try and have one last go in the ring, you know, to be a champion again. But no, it wasn't to be. And sadly, the father died, John Voight. And I cried and I cried and I cried. I wanted to know why such things could happen. This is when I was a kid. When you're older, you make sense of it all, right? So that was one film that killed me, basically, and kills me even now when I watch it. Even though it was a couple of years ago I last watched it, I can remember still crying as well. And somebody was with me as well watching it, and I remember looking at each other and our eyes were watering. But we try not to look at each other because it feels silly. But in reality, it's not that silly, is it? If it's a tearjerker and it makes you cry, it makes you cry. Human nature does these kind of things to us, right? So the second film I'm going to choose before I go on to other stuff was Spartacus. The first Spartacus, with Kirk Douglas, Tony Curtis, I think, who played Mark Anthony, I can't remember, a big name as well. And what was her name? Gene Simmons, a great British actor as well. Now, Spartacus, many of you don't know the story of it. They didn't like the way they were being treated. They were outlaws, basically, trying to get their own back on the Romans. There were moments where they were caged up as animals. They used to have to go into the gladiator arena and fight each other. Barbaric, some of it, you know, where people were, the Roman Empire, they were watching and clapping, and all the losers. I remember a part in that film where there was a geezer, a dark geezer, who refused to fight Kirk Douglas, and he went for I think it was Julius Caesar. He went for one of the leaders, and because if you refuse to fight, the ultimate punishment for you for refusing to fight is death. Now, I can remember him climbing up to where the big boss was sitting, so to speak, and he got his throat cut. How brave that man could have been. But I remember crying, right? I remember feeling sad that a man who, like Kirk Douglas, who felt some kind of presence of him because of his part in that film as a leader who was fighting for the cause. But the saddest part of the whole film, there's two bits when they said, because Gene Simmons didn't love the Roman geezer, she loved Kirk Douglas and was having a baby for him. And he wanted her to love him the way that she loved Kirk Douglas. Didn't happen, right? So she even got her into his quarters to live with him. She didn't want to play no part in it. And one day, one of his own lot got her out of there and sold her away somewhere to get away from such a horrible man, right? But in the end, he got crucified, Kirk Douglas, right? I'll tell you the sad bit, that's the other bit. When they were told they had to fight each other, basically, that leader of the Romans said, all right then, you're not playing ball. Tony Curtis, who worshipped Kirk Douglas, you fight him, Demetrius versus Spartacus. And Spartacus, every time they were fighting, they were having a go at each other, and Kirk Douglas saying, listen, I don't want to kill you, kill me. And Tony Curtis was saying to him, no, you kill me, because I'm not going to let you live. I won't let them crucify you. That's what he said, right? Kirk Douglas said, no, I won't let them crucify you. In the end, he locked both hands behind each hand, and he said, good night, Vienna, kind of thing, and give him one stab and killed him, right? So they crucified him. But when she was running away from this horrible emperor, right, she was in this court, horse and carriage. So she had to pass all the crosses where they were being crucified at the end, right? End of the film, really sad bit. And she passed through and she had the baby in her hand, and Kirk Douglas was on the cross talking to her, and she was showing him the baby, and she was saying to him, look, Spartacus, look, he's going to be like you. He's going to teach everybody the same as you. The battle isn't lost yet. Just because you've lost, you're going to die. Don't mean that you haven't got some kind of legacy. So she left him with some kind of peace of mind before he died. But what a sad end. I cried like a baby in that film as well. Now, some of the serious stuff that made me cry. I remember once talking to you about a guy that died in Wayland years and years ago. It was in the early 90s, and it was over yeast. I didn't know the geezer personally, but I know he was from Notting Hill Gate. So I didn't have no dealings with him or nothing, but I remember the incident taking place, and I remember coming out my cell, and I remember altercations, arguments, and, you know, an argument over there for namesake, and me over there with others. And all I remember, didn't see the stab wound myself, but all I remember is a man falling to the floor, and one stab, dead. Just like that. That's what can happen in prison. Just so some of you are reminded, this was an argument over yeast. To make it even worse, I'm hearing through the grapevine, the yeast wasn't even meant to be delivered to the man in question, because the man that's working in the kitchen, he's got instructions to deliver the yeast to someone. He must be getting some kind of payment. I don't know, I'm just surmising here, right? So he's given the yeast to the wrong person. Like a person must have approached him and said, yeah, the yeast, that's meant to come to me. So of course, argument develops like it always does in there. And this is the most extreme thing that can happen in there, where he doesn't know who the geezer is. As far as he knows, he's the right geezer. He hands over the yeast. He's confronted about 2 minutes later by a geezer saying, "Where's the yeast?" A man saying, "You got yeast for me, send it over to me." No, I've already given it to bloody blah. Where is he? Where is this fella? I never told you to give it to him. It weren't meant to go to him. Arguments develop. Sorry, mate. But the yeast, I was told that the geezer approached me, and I'm thinking, well, if he knows about the yeast, he must be the geezer. Arguments developed. He's drawn out a shank, dead, just like that. Doing your time peacefully, working in the kitchen. Basically, his name was Victor, apparently. But just like that, dead, never to speak again. Families, you know, how do they ever get over that? How do you die over a piece of yeast that wasn't even meant for the right person? All these things in prison, contraband, things that are not meant to, you're not meant to participate in, they're all breaking the rules, can lead to extreme circumstances, and as quite clearly seen here, something so tragic happening. And that was that story. So that's an extreme case again. So you lot beware. There's been many along the years that have happened like that. Many men have lost their lives in prison. Some we hear about, some we don't, but that was that. The other two that I was going, that's right. David Croak. Dave, rest in peace, Dave. Old man, done a 20-year stretch for armed robbery. Came back to prison in later life for a murder, allegedly that he committed. I don't know if he did. As far as I know, he told me he didn't. But it was mixed up in a Van Hoosteren case. A man who was allegedly put out a hit on someone, and he got caught up in it somehow. I think Dave was doing really well outside. He was a cabman and changed his life around. I think he was out about 10 years, hadn't been in no trouble whatsoever. I'll never forget it, because I got to meet him through Steve Gillen. Now, Steve Gillen will verify this story now. Steve paying his respects, as he does, to older people while they're in jail, and he must have known him from the sentence before. He used to go up there every morning and do little things with him in the cell, keep him happy. He weren't having no visits. I think his wife had left him, and, you know, and another sentence. He's not really going to get out now, is he? He's in his 60s or 70s. Another life stretch in front of him. He's not got much to look forward to. But I'll never forget his words to me one morning. He had a segregation case, adjudication, where he had to go down to the block to face the music of some sorts. And I can never forget it. He said to me, he goes, "Yammy, listen, sometimes I get pissed off with all this, sadly. Don't be surprised if one day you never see me again." I looked at him. I thought, because we was having a smoke, I thought he was just getting a bit emotional, and you know, some people do when you smoke, and that kind of stuff. Only to find out a day or two later that he took his own life, hanged himself while he was down the block in Whitemore. So my condolences to all his families, and paying great respects to Dave Croak, who was apparently a great man, and from what I saw was a really nice gentleman as well. And, you know, sometimes I wish that I could have run down to the office and said, "Listen, a man's threatening to commit suicide. I'd be aware if I was you." And I keep thinking sometimes, maybe if I would have said that, he might be alive today. No, I won't beat myself up about such things, because if you're going to take your own life and you're serious about it, you will do. Right, so that was that one as well. So committing suicide can be a hurtful thing, especially if you've been forewarned, or especially if someone's really close to you. I didn't know Desi Cunningham that well. I think I met him twice on remand and different places along the years, but never really got into much discussions with him. But I heard through the grapevine that he was a man who was respected by so many men. I never heard a bad word said about him throughout all my prison history. He's meant to be one of the ones, the famous story in Parkhurst with Nicky Dunford and Wayne Urran, another one, rest in peace, for the Charlie Bronson thing. I won't go into that one tonight, but apparently his name was called in that. I don't know how true that is. But apparently he had 18 months left of an 18-year sentence or 20-year sentence, and he got some bad news of some kind that he didn't share with anybody and basically kept it all to himself. And again, I think it was Whitemore that where he took his own life down the segregation, and there are answers up till today that many say they never noticed anything wrong with him. So, you know, whether it is a case of people hiding stuff deep within inside them where they, you know, they don't want to tell anyone they're going to kill themselves in case they get talked out of it, or the pain what they're feeling is so real and so bad inside that they can't talk about it, and that the only way out sometimes, and this happens in prison, and this happens a lot in prison, many cases, many suicides go unmentioned, but if you look at the statistics and you look at all the names, all the ones that have been mentioned, but there are hundreds of lists of names that don't get a mention, but they have committed suicide for one reason or another. So paying my respects again to Des Cunningham's family as well. The other closest bit to what I got to a suicide was in Coldenley in 1992. I think I was finishing off there. A man went on home leave, came back apparently with stuff or whatever. I don't know how true this is, right? So take me at face value on this one. All I know is the geezer was a couple of doors away from me, and he came back on a Friday night, and whatever he did in there, or whatever caused his death, whether something happened with his missus over the weekend, I'll never know. I never asked no questions. All I know is the inspectors came in a couple of days later. It was a scene crime. It was sealed off. I remember them coming in to question staff, to ask people if they noticed anything of things. Apparently, in the end, they done things where they can check the blood, and they realised, or they came to a conclusion, I don't know how true that is either, fair to say, that he had things in his system that might have caused him to take drastic action on himself in that way. Again, that one was pretty close to me as well. And again, it highlights what can go through your mind while you're serving a prison sentence. And it has led to many deaths. So not just on a fictional sense, on a factual sense, I end this video tonight. It's still early tonight. I might come up later on. Sorry to end on a sad note tonight, but just had some tear-jerking films, and just thought I'd share some of this with you as well. Have a wonderful evening. Love you loads.